to a rendezvous with the long-range desert group, the LRDG. The LRDG is a gathering and fighting unit, specialising in desert navigation, operating deep behind the lines. Many people believe the SAS from the LRDG. It wasn't. But they'll play a key role in the first months of the SAS. This is the actual top-secret order from the 8th Army HQ to David Stirling, authorising the first ever SAS. The mission of death and disaster. An absolute determination not to accept defeat, an amazing decision to break all the rules, and a final triumph. And because of this, there will be an SAS.
We knew it was very important that that Colonel Stirling had to have a success, having had such a job to raise a unit, because most people in the Middle East were so anti and thought that Colonel Stirling was mad, you know, talking about getting behind lines and doing these sort of things.
The originals prepare their weapons and explosives, tied to their departure point at Bagouche. Then, massive stop. Middle East HQ gives Stirling the opportunity to cancel the operation. Stirling and the originals face a terrible dilemma. Cancel, and the enemy within will kill off the SAS before it's even begun. But jump into storm, and most of them won't survive.
We made an undertaking. We would never again be subject to the frustrations of the commando days. Therefore, I wasn't simply prepared to see the first of our operations being postponed, or it couldn't be postponed at all, because it had to take place on a certain evening.
Well, we all went into a tent and we were told that the operation could be put back, but then it would not be tactically sound to do so, but the weather was against us going. We were all given the option of opting out.
We was trying to get away from this cancellation all the time. There's nothing worse than to build yourself up for an operation and it's cancelled. We wanted to get in.
The command was rather anxious to see if we did postpone it. However, we refused absolutely. They gave us the option. So we went ahead.
That evening we were given a meal. It was out of this world. The RAF had laid it on. And it was like the Last Supper, because what went through my mind, what a beautiful meal this is, you know, and what's it in aid of? I think the RAF thought they'd never see any of us again, you know.
Then the originals climb into their and take off.
Rightly, the people that turn around must probably and prostrate and say we should never have dropped under those conditions. But if we hadn't, there would never have been an SAS, that is for sure.
November 1941, the first official SAS mission. Parachute behind the lines prior to an Allied offensive, take air cover, which threatens that offensive. But as they take off, a massive storm blows up. Middle East HQ. Stirling and the originals face a terrible dilemma. Call off the operation and the enemies within will destroy the SAS before it's even begun, or jump into a storm against the likelihood that most of them won't survive. They jump.
The sand blew over the coastline. It made it impossible for the aircraft carrying us to know where the coastline point from which they were going to be able to determine their dropping zone for the parachutists related to the target area.
And our aircraft got into the searchlights over the Gulf of Bumba, and all this flak was coming up. It was breeder fire, 15, 20 millimetre, all different colours, and the plane inside was absolutely lit up.
There's these flaming onions were coming up one after another at us very slowly. They looked very slowly as they came, but as they passed the door, which is wide open, they went like hell, actually.
And just walked up and down as though nothing cared at all, He gets, well, he's not frightened, why am I frightened? He said, not to worry, but we'll have to jump. We don't know where we are, but we're going to jump, and I've told the pilot.
The pilot said that it was very, very dodgy, and should he call it off? And Colonel David said, no, certainly not.
It was a night without any moon, pitch black, and they dropped the 65 men taking part all over the bloody shop. When we hit the ground, there were quite a few of us were knocked out.
You just couldn't get out of the parachute. You were being dragged along with your arms up, dragged the desert.
Dragged in the sand, and it was just folding the skin back, getting underneath, and it was a shocking state.
I went streaming off, and luckily for me, because some of them were dragged to death, my parachute got caught, and I was trying to knock my quick release, and I was in such a state of shock, I hadn't turned the bloody.
The canisters containing the Lewis bombs are lost in the storm. There's no way they can continue. Some of the men are badly injured. The originals leave them water, then turn for the almost impossible trek across the desert to the rendezvous point.
We had 2 casualties, but we left water with these 2 chaps and had to leave them there, and we don't know from this day, from that day to this, whether they survived or not. I don't think they did. But it was an awful feeling to leave 2 friends as you've been, operating with and training with.
At the rendezvous, the men of the long-range desert group wait. Then, at last, the first figures appear on the horizon. There aren't many. David Stirling makes it. Jock Lewis makes it. 60 parachute into a storm. 21, just 21, survived to make it to the rendezvous. It's exactly the sort of failure that Stirling's enemies at Middle East headquarters would want.
They were very chuffed that the unit had apparently been annihilated, and they were going to disband us, as it was.
Oh, we were thinking that 21 of us came out of that. We thought of the others that we didn't know whether they were alive or dead. I think wanted to continue. We'd gone through so much, so whatever happened afterwards was going to be, a piece of cake. It wasn't, of course, but...
Stirling and the originals appear to have lost their first battle against the opposition at Middle East headquarters. But then this is David Stirling, and these are the... decides if the long-range desert group can bring them out, the long-range desert group can take them in.
In meeting LRDG, they picked us up, and everybody's, well, crikey, if these people can penetrate this far, why the hell take all and trouble and jeopardize the operation by drop by paratroop? And why not get them to carry us in? And of course, everybody had this view, right from the lowest private, as you could say. I mean, it's so obvious. We had no idea that we had trolls penetrating 200 or 300, 400 miles behind the enemy positions. And it made it stupid, the idea of paratrooping in.
Stirling orders the 21 to return to their camp secretly. He orders them to beg, steal more gear. Then, totally unofficially, carried by the long-range desert group, they go back into the desert and resume their mission to attack enemy aircraft and airfields. No after-action reports exist of what happened next. The only account is by the originals themselves, and this is the first time they've told what happened.